will now recognize Dr. Marshall for 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Welcome, everybody. I want to talk about biofuels, conservation, and innovation for a second. So I'm a biochemistry major, obviously went on to medical school, and certainly have seen this incredible things happen since my first memorizing that atomic chart back in 10th grade as well. Maybe talk about biofuels. Anybody experienced with any of the biofuels? What is happening at the basic science level? What's happening at the innovation level? Mr. Toomey, you want to share anything? What you got cooking?
Well, we've always been excited to find new as you call feedstocks. So we've got fossil fuels. There are other things that you can use to start the chemical process. Biofuels, components are a great source of that. In fact, in the recently passed Farm Bill, there was some very important language about defining how do you account for the bio elements within your feedstocks, and that's been transformational in allowing us to show bio-based plastics. So I think that the feedstock, using it not only as a fuel for mobility, but actually as the source for plastics is an incredibly exciting future.
Yeah, I was down in Florida, and they were taking sugar cane and turning it into plates and biodegradable cups and stuff like that. A great future for it. Dr. Warner, did you have something you wanted to share?
Yeah, it's an interesting issue when we look at the bioeconomy and trying to make traditional materials from biosources. The 270 years of modern chemistry we've been doing in chemistry, trying to make things easy to purify at the end, easy to extract, to scale up. Bioprocesses essentially make that really hard, that bio milieu, if you will. We haven't really invented enough technologies to efficiently and cost effectively pull them out, and that's one of the big research barriers right now, is the cost-effective way to scale up the final purification of those materials. So from a technical gap, that's where the technical gap actually lies.
Yeah, Dr. Zimmerman. I read body language pretty good.
I do a lot of research in my own laboratory on this question. I think the other big issue with bio-based feedstocks is, the petroleum industry is really good at getting a barrel of crude oil out of the ground and using every single fraction of that. We are not as good when we take a bio-feedstock of saying this much goes to fuel and the rest isn't waste. What do we do with it? And I think the other big chemical challenge is being able to harness value out of every fraction of that biomass, just like a petroleum refinery would. We call it the integrated biorefinery. And that changes the economics of the system, where sometimes those really low volume but high value fractions actually drive the economics, and your fuel becomes a waste product out of going after these other compounds. The other thing bio-based and biofuels offer is new chemistry, things that we can't do from petroleum feedstocks. We have new starting materials, and we can make new things, new performance that we're not able to get out of the petroleum economy. So I think it's not just replacing what's there, but actually creating and innovating a new opportunity.
Right. I think another great example I can think of is when ethanol first kind of hit the market 20 or 30 years ago. The cattle feeders were, oh my gosh, this is going to drive the cost of corn up. Well, the next thing you know, a byproduct, dry distillers grain, has a huge high protein content, and what was once a waste product, we now export it across the world, and we feed it to our cattle, and again more. And every month it seems like there's something new and improved coming out in that industry. Now they're using sorghum, which uses less water to grow, in place of corn, and able to use those interchangeably. And now we haven't started about the biodiesels. So let's maybe talk about conservation and innovation. That since 2003, the carbon gas output of this country has a nice steady trend downward. And just want to be curious what you all see the future looks like, what conservation projects you think might be working. You probably maybe more the lines of innovation as I look at this crowd in your industry. What do you see for the future of innovation? I happen to believe that innovation can do more to drive the carbon footprint down than any law that I can write up here. So prove me right.
I would say from the chemical industry standpoint, there's a tremendous incentive to always look for new efficiencies and new processes and technologies that can help drive down emissions, whether it be of carbon or other potential air pollutants. We, as an industry, have made significant progress since we started measuring carbon emissions in 1990 through the Responsible Care Program, which I mentioned earlier, and are committed to continuing that progress in the future.
Great. Anybody else on innovation? Dr. Persons, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. I just wanted to mention one example. When we looked at our technologies across catalysts, solvents, and continuous processing in our 2018 report, one of the things that came out in the catalysts, this relates to Mr. Tonko's question earlier, was a 2016 company called New Light Technologies won a presidential green chemistry challenge for developing and commercializing biocatalysts that is capturing methane and I guess combining it with air to create a material that matched or exceeded the performance of petroleum base. So there was a way to reduce a very intensive greenhouse gas, put it into everyday products like packaging and cell phone cases, furniture and things. And I think based upon what we heard our stakeholders say, and I think you're hearing here, that we're sort of scratching the surface on some of these things that can be a win-win in that regard.
Thanks. Chairwoman, my last questioner. You got anybody else?
You are. We'll do another round.
Okay, I yield back. Thank you.